Going on?
How's D. Walker been progressing? He looks like a guy
Doing good, man. He's doing good. I think the longer he can be in there, the more opportunities he gets, the more comfortable he's feeling. You know what I mean? So I think he's coming around, man. I can't get him enough reps, so I'm going to try to do that and get him a few more as we move forward for sure.
How's it been having Dre back, and I guess he's still limited?
Yeah, he's still limited a little bit, but it's good having him back out there and getting a chance to move around, and those guys see him and they feel good about it. The D-line sees him, feels good about it. So we're excited to have him back out there.
And Dijon, what has he carried over from the spring?
He still getting better with the run game stuff. Pass game's been really good. I think. That part of it, he's got that down pretty good. And then run game-wise, we just got to get back to kind of where we were at the end of the spring, I think. You know what I'm saying? And we're working towards that end. But it looks like he's bringing a little bit more pop with him, which is a good thing. You know what I'm saying? I like that. That's good stuff.
You guys got to be excited to get the pads on and as linebackers to do some at least nutting up.
Absolutely. I mean, those guys love to do that. And, I think we got some really good running backs. And to have the ability to tackle those guys, I mean, it'll make us better down the road. And when it comes time to tackling the guys that we have to tackle in our league, it's going to help us tremendously.
Kind of behind Scooter, who's emerging at middle linebacker?
I've played Gilles LaFrance back there a little bit. Hopefully he's going to be a guy that'll pick it up a little bit. I think, certainly Josh Harris is a guy that, we moved over there and he's going to hopefully give us some depth there. But those two guys are the guys that I'm looking at to hopefully. And the reality is that it's kind of interchangeable now, man. I mean, we can play them at either spot. So end of the day, it's going to be the best linebacker, whether he's a Will right now or a Mike or whatever it is. So either one of those guys is going to be able to play there.
What do you guys have as inside linebackers? What do they have to do, like responsibility-wise, to have success in 3-4?
Well, in this defense, obviously you got to be able to run and get on the edge and defeat blocks. Because, there's going to be times where those guys are going to have a chance to come off and get on you, and we got to be able to beat them and then be able to get back downhill and go and make those tackles in the backfield and those types of things. But I think the lateral movement is the key, man. I mean, because of what people are going to try to do to us. They're not going to try to pound us up down inside. They're going to try to get on the edges, and so we got to do a great job of getting on those edges.
Grant Morgan seems like he's been running up with the ones and twos. What have you seen from him this spring that's allowed him to do that?
Well, he's a smart football player. I mean, he knows what to do. I think he's got really good instincts. He's tough, and he loves to play. So I think he's going to put himself in position if he continues to improve to be able to hopefully help us this year and play a little bit. So I'm excited for him. I mean, I think for a guy like him, as much as he loves to play the game, man, it's going to be a good deal.
You mentioned wanting to see Scooter get better against the run. What specifically do you want to see him improve?
I think we talk about getting on those edges, like I just mentioned, and we got to continue to work at getting on those edges and putting himself in position to go and make those tackles. I want to make them not necessarily on our side. I want to try to make some more over there. You know what I mean? Make them on their side of the line of scrimmage and that type of thing. So just from an attacking standpoint. And working downhill, that's what I'm talking about. And again, just getting back in the pads after a couple days, and he's working towards that end now. Obviously, at the end of spring, after 15 practices, it's exactly where it needs to be. So if we make the same progress that we made in the spring, I feel really good about it.
Mm-hmm. Vernon, I think I might have walked up on you talking about Dre. How's he doing physically?
Well, he's improving. You know what I mean? I think. You want to make sure, I want to make sure, we want to make sure before we put him back out there that he feels 100%. So had a little setback and not with the foot or anything, you know what I mean? So we're just going to, I want to make sure that I got him for the season. That's what I'm, you know what I'm saying? I'm not worried. So, I mean, not that I'm not worried about practice. Don't get me wrong. He's got to practice and he's got to do all those things, but I want to make sure I get him to game one for sure.
You mentioned so.
I mean, he's just been a little sore, and so I don't know if you guys have seen him out there or whatever the case may be. So we're just trying to make sure that he's 100 by the time we get rolling with everything.
Could you see him playing in the first game without scrimmaging beforehand?
I don't know about that. I mean, because I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, he'll be able to get him in some scrimmages, and there's no doubt about that. And so I don't think that'll be the case.
So what kind of changes have you seen in Coach Rhodes now that he's the defensive coordinator?
Not a lot other than him making the calls. I mean, he is who he is, and I think he's a very thorough guy, and wants to make sure all the guys, all the T's are dotted and I's. T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and does a great job with all that stuff. So, no, not a big change at all, man. Other than the fact that he's up in the front of the room, and I think it's going to be a great deal for us for sure.
So, who's taking the most weak side reps?
Right now, it's been Grant.
Oh,
yeah, he's going with the first bunch a little bit, and I'm working D in there as well. Kyrie Fisher is working on the weak side as well. So right now it's kind of by committee, and with Grant taking most of them, and then I'm working those other two guys, man. And again, however it shakes down, the guys that end up, whoever it is that gives us the best opportunity to win, I'll put them wherever they need to be. You know what I mean? They're in a starting point right now, but could the guy that's the first, second Will could be the second Mike tomorrow, or whatever the case may be. So that's kind of still just a work in progress.
You mentioned earlier Kyrie showed up a little overweight. How's he doing now?
Well, I mean, we talked about where I wanted him to be when he got back, and he was a little heavier than I wanted him to be. Whether that's made a difference or not, to me, it probably has a little bit, but he's a young guy and he's still got to figure it out. So, again, that's still a work in progress there.
As far as attitude goes, these guys still have the memory of the end of last season. How have they been motivated the past few days?
Well, I think certainly the young guys. I mean, the older guys that went through it, they still kind of carry that a little bit, and it's kind of a not the best way to finish, you know what I'm saying? And I think everybody kind of feels that, and they don't want that to happen again. So sometimes, you have to go through some of that stuff, and you learn from it, and you keep it in your back pocket, and hopefully, when we find ourselves in that situation again, the outcome may be a little different.
I don't know if Dre played last year. He very well could be a preseason all-conference guy. But the fact of the matter is, at the SEC Media Days, Arkansas didn't have any all-conference guys on defense, three deep.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, who played well enough? You know what I'm saying? I mean, who played well enough, and who's back that's done that. So at the end of the day, like we talk about earning everything, you earn everything. So it's not about where you are right now. Let's see where the season goes and how guys play, and let that speak for what's going to happen at the end of the season when they do actually say, okay, these are the guys that are top guys in the SEC. So it's all in front of you. There's nobody that's already there. So I think it's wide open, and I think we have some guys that'll emerge.
Is that something you feel like you guys could use as a motivating factor, or the players might see as a motivating factor? Like, we're getting disrespected?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt about that. In some people's minds, in some guys' minds, yeah, for sure. I didn't know that there were none, but because I don't necessarily care about that, but I'm sure they do. And so from that standpoint, hopefully it will maybe motivate them to play that much harder, or whatever the case may be, and in turn will help us be a better football team.
Yeah, Paul was saying the team doesn't really have any stars, at least right now. I mean, I think there's some players that can be stars, like Dre or Game or Pulley or whoever. But I mean, but he was saying the main thing is you got to play collectively well.
Yeah.
So you feel like you guys can be a pretty good defense, even if you don't have the acknowledged star power right now. Anyway?
Absolutely, it's about playing as one. It's about playing extremely hard. When you get that, and when we're out there, and that makes up for a lot of stuff. That makes up for not necessarily maybe having that big-time player, whoever it is. And that's not to say that we don't have that guy, because once the season gets going and the lights come on, we'll see where that whole thing goes.
You look at Jamario's injury that Coach talked about yesterday. With the linebackers, it seemed to be a trend. Is that more of a bad luck, or is that something that's just been going on?
Well, I mean, it's hard to tell. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's bad luck or not. I mean, shoot. I mean, I think it's hard to tell about injuries and where those things come from and why they happen and things like that. But it's a physical position, obviously, and so there's a pretty good chance, man, that things could happen. So I don't know if it's. I think it's just the nature of the beast, quite frankly.
Has that been a concern at all, just the number of foot injuries?
I think, anytime you have, injuries, period, I mean, they're always going to be a concern. I don't know if it's any more than anything else, but, there's a lot of times where, it looks like there's a whole lot of them, and the reality is that it's probably just natural. I mean, you look around all over the league, I mean, there's probably the same type of thing with injuries and that type of stuff.